Hello, I'm Scott Clover, and you're listening to the Intuitive Energy Podcast. This podcast series is about intuition, healing, and creating new energetic patterns that benefit you in your daily life. In my private practice, I help people heal from a diverse range of issues, including self-acceptance, trauma release, managing anxiety, emboldening self-worth, and creative expression. In today's episode, we discuss the power and importance of our gender energies, accepting yourself by being free from judgment, why finding your tribe is important, and the benefits of creating boundaries for your protection. Enjoy.
Carl Munson here with our continued conversation with Scott Clover, the intuitive energy healer over there in New York. Hi, Scott.
Hi, Carl.
I'm so enjoying these conversations, and I think other people are too now. Today we're looking at how would we put this? People breaking out of society's impositions and the roles we've been given and the bubbling under that's occurring and how people want to be free?
Yeah, I think there's a inner yearning, a sort of slow-moving current, underground current that's happening, that's getting quicker and quicker and not so underground, and that people are really saying enough with paradigms, enough with polarities.
Mm-hmm.
My energy is different than what I was dictated my energy had to be growing up as a child. Meaning, we're seeing a lot more people expressing themselves through intuition and saying that they access information differently, something that I do. And then one of the areas that I work with is people accepting their own gender balance, meaning they may not feel completely male or female. They're yin and yang, or the lingam and yoni, the lingam being more the masculine energy, the yoni being the receptive feminine energy. Those are becoming a little toggled for a lot of people. And you wonder, hey, why is this happening just in the last 4 or 5 years? Or has it been there all along? But the social constraints of the last couple hundred years has kept us polarized as male, female. And it's not about gender. It's not about having a certain genital, if you will. It's about how do you feel when you express your inner self. And that may not correspond to the societal deemed norm of, well, you have a penis, so you definitely should act this way, and you have a vagina, so you definitely should act this way. It's becoming shades and shades and shades of gray out there. And I think it's more about people being fed up and saying, this is how I feel inside, and I'm going to express that outside, and really society be damned. With the internet, there's enough internet groups that you can compartmentalize who you are with a group of people, and they'll make you feel better because you don't feel alone. I mean, back in the 60s and 70s, people that felt like this would put out ads in little private newspapers and things, and have correspondence by mail until they drove 300 miles to meet someone else who feels like, I'm a man who wants to wear a dress, or I'm a woman who feels like I should be more masculinized, or my voice is too high, or my body doesn't present itself the way I feel I'm presenting myself. So it's not about changing your body, it's about expressing the body that you're in.
Amazing.
It's becoming more and more and more commonplace.
I've never seen it like that. It's often within the realm of gender politics, isn't it, and identity politics. And what you've revealed to me there, as I understand it anyway, is the shift perhaps from how people identify themselves or create their sense of self from societal cues, and that now they might be taking their cues from how they actually really feel themselves. Because it just makes sense, doesn't it, that you would have your sense of self from your sense of self, if that makes sense, and what you intuit and sense and feel to be the case about who you are, rather than trying to pick from a number of multiple choice options, which is the past.
Well, people wake up every morning and say, okay, I'm me, and I would like to self-express, but I can't because my neighbor would judge me, or my barista, or the guy at the toll booth, or the secretary at my office. I can't wear guy liner, for example, out in public because somebody might judge me. or I may not, as a woman, wear more masculine wool westernized clothes or like country western clothes because that's how you feel to express yourself. But you may be judged by your neighbors, your peers, your family as being not what they think you should be. And I
Yeah.
think people are saying, I am so effing fed up of living under the guise of someone else's impressions. So it's really judgment versus self-acceptance, or judgment versus self-expression.
And self-judgment, right?
Oh, correct. Oh, yeah. Self-judgment is created by the judgments of others. So you internalize the looks or the feels that you get from other people. And some people over time have always been rebellious. I mean, there were cross-dressers in the 1800s and the 1900s, but once again, they were very closed groups. Now, I live in Manhattan, so it's probably a little more predominant here than in other places.
But what's so interesting to me about the barista and a toll booth person, if that's what you called them, is they're judging you anyway. When that dynamic's at play of like what you think about yourself and how you think other people think about you. But what really seems to be important about that is how that literally makes you feel, how that affects your health, what the limits and fullness of your self-expression is. And if it's not there, that's not going to work very well in your life, is it? If there's suppression, if there's self-judgment, if you think you know that you want to be different, but you can't be because of a whole load of mental mechanisms, that's going to impact your health. And that's what you're helping people with, right?
See, and that's what I like that you said that. It's not about being different anymore. It's about being yourself.
Yes.
And that's a huge distinction, because the people that were judging you, you're giving your power away to them. Uh-huh. If you let them judge you and their judgment changes how you self-express, then you've given your power away.
Yeah.
So your power comes in your victimization. So if you victimize yourself, the flip side of being victimized is sort of having your guardian of self-esteem. And we're talking about archetypal work here, but archetypes are just as polarity driven as gender. When you're in a victim state, you become victimized. When you switch to a state of self-esteem, that's where healing is. That's where self-confidence comes from. That's when you own your own feelings. You're owning your own energy. And this isn't to say that tomorrow everyone should wake up and be exactly who they are and fuck society, because it doesn't matter. It does matter. It's important to fit in, but it's more important going forward, I think, for people to be themselves.
I think that's amazing that you're saying it's important to fit in, because then that's where the dynamic is, right? Is understanding functional fitting in and dysfunctional fitting in, yeah, or not fitting into yourself, and how that affects your health. That will be a marker, wouldn't it, or a sign to yourself that actually.
Right. Imagine being around. Okay, so we're talking about a tribal mentality now. Fitting in is a need we have on an intrinsic, spiritual, physical level. It's our first chakra. It's tribe. It's family. It's fitting in. Because of technology now and Meetup and these other groups or different kinds of bars that are out there of things, you can now go and find other people that have a similar idiosyncrasy to your own, and that can create a new tribe. And in that tribe, you gain strength to be yourself.
Wow!
So it really is a basic first chakra need that most humans have to fit in.
And this is perhaps because we talked before, didn't we, about how we create ways of surviving childhood and growing up and becoming an adult. Is this the transition then from the family tribe to your true tribe, if you like, that you're talking about?
Yeah, your chosen tribe. And a lot of times for a lot of people that is family, because they share a lot of similarities. But because of the world at large being so polarizing, a lot of families are realizing that just because they're related genetically, they don't have a lot in common. And it might be better to spend time with like-minded people as opposed to always going back to the family well, when that water can be somewhat poisoned by people's judgments, people's in different generations that just don't get you, or your peers that don't want to get you because they're self-conscious.
And this is pretty revolutionary stuff. So are you completely comfortable with the idea of when you're done with your family, you're done with your family and it's time for a new tribe?
if that pertains to your situation. Yeah, I say to people, everyone knows that soda is bad for us. It's not like, oh, diet soda is good for us and regular soda isn't. No, all of it is garbage. We drink it anyway. So the idea is, how much soda will you keep drinking? What is your choice? If there's a toxic relationship in a familial unit, get away from it. If you realize this person in my family is so toxic to me, and yet I'm going to go over to their house every Sunday for dinner and suck it up and sit through it and just feel ostracized. Well, you're only damaging yourself at that point. You're drinking the poison on a weekly basis or a monthly basis or at Christmas time. And I think people are starting to realize that your tribe is the one that supports you. And if your tribe detracts from you, it might be prudent to go out and look for a similar tribe of not just necessarily like-minded people, but accepting people.
Yeah, because I guess that's what we're looking for at the most basic level, isn't it? Of that basic connection, that the chakra of belonging is to be connected, to be accepted, and to be heard.
Mm-hmm. And if you're different and still accepted by a larger group, then that's a pretty cool group to be in.
Yeah, the best.
If you can self-express or find a part of the world that you want to move to, move there.
Cool. Now I'm going back to this dysfunctional family, this picture you painted of someone sucking it up every Sunday. And I think a lot of us have been there. People know that scene from movies for sure. You know, it's an archetype of suffering in a way, isn't it? And how people are adjusting their connection to their family unit and where they've come from, literally. This is the condition that we're looking at in terms of how people can be helped, right? How people can be supported. You know, there's clearly something not right or not healthy, not functional, if you're one of those people who is returning to what amounts to an abusive and unsupportive place. Yeah. What's that saying about your energy patterns? How does that relate to, let's say, how you might work with somebody in terms of shifting your energy? Question.
I mean, something we can all do right now is, if you think of somebody in your life, a family member, a friend, a coworker, that really vexes you, that you have to be around, but just it's uncomfortable for you to be near them, or they make you uncomfortable. Imagine sitting in a room with them, closing your eyes, sitting in a room or a field with them, and what is the energy connection going between you two? Where is that energy hitting your body? Where is the energy they're sending off hitting your body? Where is the energy you're sending off to them connecting with them? And if you notice that it's in an unpalatable place, then you have more of an insight to do something about it. Instead of just feeling grossed out by an individual, sit with that person in your imagination and see where the bonds, energy links are. And if they're not supplying you with goodness or nutrients or some sort of fertilizer, then cut that root out.
Okay, so we are talking about really revolutionary stuff here, aren't we? Because in decades gone past, if you had complained, let's say, to your family, like, I've got this coworker or someone else in the family who just drives me nuts, you might have been told decades ago, that's just life. Suck it up, get used to it.
Oh, the worst thing you can tell somebody who's gone through a trauma is to get over it.
Yeah.
That's worse than telling somebody who's going through a phase to calm down. You don't want to do that. You don't want to get over something that's really painful and rooted in family trauma or childhood trauma. Those things aren't gotten over. Those things are worked on.
Yeah, what I'm getting at, though, is this, it was the acceptance of that. You know, that's how life is that there will be people who are vexatious to you. And the revolutionary possibility you're talking about, the thing that's so exciting here, is that we're perhaps moving into a time where that isn't a given, that we don't have to accept that. We can be free. What might that freedom look like, or what might it take? And the first step of that freedom, I guess, is to consider that you don't have to put up with it anymore.
Right. It goes back to the genders again, the gender energy inside all of us. We all have masculine energy. We all have feminine energy. The feminine energy is the receptive, accepting energy. And the male energy is the putting your energy out in the world, penetrating life with your male energy, or having a feminine balance and receiving energy. A lot of people don't have those 50-50. I would say most people either overgive or over-receive. And it's time to take stock in that. And if you're over-giving to somebody who's overtaking, then you're out of balance. And if your life is all about receiving things without putting anything out in the world, you're going to be unbalanced. So one of the exercises that I like to do with people who may be struggling at work or in relationships, and it's not about a man with a woman per se, or a woman with a woman, or a man with a man. It's about what is the individual receiving and what is the individual sending out. How are their masculine and feminine energies balanced in their bodies? And if they're off balance and they meet somebody else off balance with the same percentages, then they might be a really good couple. But if you have family members who are all taking and not really giving, that's not going to be a supportive ecosystem. So there's people all over the world who want to help, and there's narcissists all over the world who want to be taken care of because they think they deserve it. Yes. And the empaths are starting to wise up that the empaths have been taken advantage of because we want to be nice to assholes too. And the assholes just want to keep taking our niceties and sort of abusing them. And it comes a point in people's lives, especially if they're working on their intuition and their authenticity and being more true to themselves, they realize, oh my God, I'm getting depleted. I'm in a vampiric relationship and I'm got my neck out.
Yes.
And when people realize that, it can be a real moment. It can be a real light bulb going off and saying, oh, I overgive. Yeah. Or in some rare cases, I overtake. Maybe I should look at that.
Is that rarer then?
Oh, yeah. The overgivers are more concerned about overgiving than the takers are concerned about overtaking. That's for darn sure.
Well, you don't get that phone call very often. I'm really concerned that I might be overtaking from other
people. I would say 1 in 18.
Wow.
1 out of 18 people might be, cognizant enough of their own self-worth to say, oh, maybe I am somewhat narcissistic.
Oh, that'd be such a thing, though, wouldn't it? You'd really want to help that person, I'm sure. Right, I've got a final sort of question point that I want to ask you about. Are we moving towards a stage now where the ultimate sense of our well-being is actually how we really feel in our body?
What is more important? When you wake up in the morning and when you go to sleep at night, what is ultimately more important? How other people feel about you or how you feel about yourself? And when we realize it's more important about how we feel about ourselves, and secondarily, the good people that we are will sort of maybe ameliorate or make better the lives of those around us, you'd be hard pressed to create a better community of a bunch of people who wake up and say, what do others think about me?
Yes, but we've been brought up on that, haven't we? That is currency for a lot of people, and they don't even really know. But that is how a lot of people...
it's permeated our social media, it's permeated our schools, it's permeated everywhere. And as I said before, the veneer is starting to crack.
Okay.
People are starting to figure out pretension only gets you so far. And abundance is having a good life. Abundance is not having 3 nice cars. We're getting to that. It's breaking through. It hasn't broken the surface yet. But ultimately, I think the new paradigm out there is I'm okay and you're okay. Not are you okay? Am I okay?
Yes, that's a recipe for trouble, isn't it? But what I'm getting at with my question, I think, is this most immediate barometer of well-being, which is how comfortable we feel in our bodies, and what tension of every kind, every tension in every sense of the word. If there is that in the body, it might be a clue. And that might be a shift in people's thinking. It's like, it's not natural to have all kinds of tensions and difficulties in your body.
Oh, correct. Well, if you're lying to yourself, that means your body is bearing the brunt of the lie. Mm-hmm. And the lie is I'm mispresenting myself to the world as opposed to the person I am inside. Because of societal pressure, I'm changing who I should be for what they think I should be. That's painful. That creates tension. That creates contractions. And those contractions end up residing in the body. We know, we've all met people over our lives that lie. They don't look like they feel good in their bodies. To tell a lie purposely, vindictively or nefariously, to outright keep lying, it takes its toll over time. Those people, to intuitives like me, you can see a sort of inner disparity, an inner disconnect, because you have to challenge. If you just don't tell the truth repeatedly, your body bears the brunt of it. And not even talking about karma or anything else, but those people are not energetically palatable. And the more intuition peaks with people, the more people are going to start registering who's conducive to be around and who's no longer conducive for me to be around. Or who should I listen to and who shouldn't I listen to? Because as people's intuition gets stronger, and globally our intuition is rising, we're going to start being able to differentiate better the people that we should be around, as opposed to the people that we feel compelled to be around because of somebody else's choices.
Fantastic. I think that's a really profound note to end this particular conversation on. ScottClover.com is where you should go. Scott with 2 T's, Clover, CLOVER.com. If you want to find out more about Scott or just book a session with Scott, which I thoroughly recommend. I'll put my cards on the table. Full transparency. Go for it. He's a great guy to work with. And I look forward to talking to you more, Scott, along these lines and about what's happening with what you're talking about there is the general shift of energy in the world and the awakening of intuition. Yeah,
it's bound to happen. We can't continue the way we've been going. We're heading into the furnace. So let's divert ourselves and, head into the pond. Find your tribe.
Brilliant. Look forward to speaking to you again soon.
Bye, sir. You've been listening to the Intuitive Energy Podcast with me, Scott Clover. Thanks to Carl Munson for the great discussion and to Corey Tutt for the music you're listening to. In my private practice, I encourage people to heal what holds you back and feel better in your body. If you need more help with that process, I'm available for healing sessions by phone internationally. Visit scottclover.com for more information. Be well, and thanks for listening. This podcast is for educational and informational purposes only, and solely as a self-help tool for your own use. I'm not providing medical, psychological, or nutrition therapy advice. You should not use this information to diagnose or treat any health problems or illnesses without consulting your own medical practitioner. Always seek the advice of your own medical practitioner and/or mental health provider about your specific health situation. For my full disclaimer, please go to scottclover.com/disclaimer.